Okay, figure drawing crew. We are turning into a different kind of rhythm. We've been doing a lot of different things, and it's time to start mediated bodies. If you think about it, we've been really focused on being present in person with the model, learning to get beyond stereotypes of how the body works to actually really looking, learning a bit of anatomy, what's underneath the skin. Very traditional practices that have been part of art training for a long, long time. We went to the ROM, so thinking about the classical body. This here is an image of the cannon. It's a very famous sculpture of the spear bearer. We don't actually have the original, but there are many copies. And it's known as the cannon because it captures, embodies an ideal of what the human body is like, using a lot of mathematics, using the Fibonacci sequence, using the classical notion of the golden section. And so there's a certain relationship between the size of the head and the proportions of where the eyes and the eyebrows are, and the head multiplied out through the body. And so it looks like a realistic body, but it's also very idealized to suit these mathematical proportions. You can see in the next slide, this is Leonardo da Vinci's drawing the Vitruvius Man, where he is also mapping out, using geometry. He would have had a compass and measuring angles and measuring relationships between different body parts. And it's called a Vitruvian Man because Vitruvius was a Roman era architect who wrote a treatise about proportion and linking that with the human body. So that was written, and Leonardo said, what if I try and draw this using as well his own observation of the body and thinking about proportion. Now, all of these things are a long way from how we experience our body today. I often don't feel so composed and balanced, and so there are many other aspects that are lost if we think only in those terms. You might think, who is excluded from this idea of proportion? You'll notice that the ideals are men, which suits a classical worldview from that time. So what about women's bodies? Of course, we saw amazing sculptures of women using similar ideas at the ROM. But again, it's kind of a male gaze idea about what bodies are like. What about racialized bodies? What about non-Western bodies? I also, in this project, want to think about technology. Technology changes how we perceive the world. It experiences our physical relationship to the world around us. I'm wearing glasses. That completely revolutionizes what I can experience, and that's becomes an extension of my body, right? I'm a bit of a cyborg. And you might be as well. I wonder what technologies have shaped your effect of your own body. Think about being in a car and how that affects our sense of space, our ability to fly, how that our geographies, our sense of how bodies can move. Maybe you've ridden a motorcycle, right? What does that do to your sense of empowerment within your body? So let's look at some art historical works that bring out this idea of mediation, not just seeing the body directly, but experiencing the body through some sort of lens. The first one I have here, I've got two that are about media. Well, actually, a whole bunch of them are about media. It's called Mediated Bodies. But this is about news media. Here we have Andy Warhol, and he was making art in the 60s with the Civil Rights Act going on in the United States. So you have people who have been excluded from their democratic rights, racist policies, and so they are protesting, they are marching, and they are eventually signing people up to vote. And all of these things in the American South were met with white supremacist violence. And so we can see here these protester, there's a black man there, and there is a police officer with a German Shepherd, and it's very different than that classical image, right? It's not timeless. It's a moment in time. It's not pure form. It's flattened newsprint, very grainy image. You can tell that it's from a newspaper. The repetition, bam, 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 had the speed of this with the same image 4 times. The red, white, and blue referencing the American flag. All of this is speaking about the experience of what it means to have a body, very much in that time and place. Next, we have Gerhard Richter. Gerhard Richter is an amazing artist, and all of his work is either very abstract or very realistic, but never drawn from life. It's always using some form of mediation, usually photography in some sense, and often photography that's not his own. It's from, I mean, sometimes it is, but sometimes it has references. So this series here, I want to show you, October 18th, 1977 is the name of the series. On that morning, in a prison in Germany, 3 people were found dead. So they were all members of a left-wing radical group called the Red Army Faction, RAF. And this group had been, doing some terrorist activities, some bombs and different things for quite a period of time. And so some of these people had been arrested. How is it that they all die of suicide at the same time? So it was seen as very controversial. People didn't really believe the government's story. 10 years pass and Gerhard Richter comes out with this work. It was very controversial, got everyone arguing and talking. But it's about the power of images, the power of art, really, to take something that's in the fleeting news and raise it to be more of an existential kind of question. What is true? What do we think of different kinds of people? What is history painting today? Instead of just showing kings winning battles or whatever, are these history paintings? Okay, let's turn angles a bit. Let's see a couple issues touching on representation of women. Amanda Klein, she's a Toronto painter, and she's done quite a few pieces with this kind of shimmering, fragmented but coming together, almost like you're looking through some sort of distorted glass to see someone's fragmented identity. Not quite getting the whole person, but somehow getting the person 3 times. She paints these by putting tape down and painting within the stripe and then not being able to see exactly what's on either side because the tape is covering. So these interesting shifts through her process. And there's a second one from her as well, this sort of disorienting. You can feel the Glamour magazine, right? How does a Glamour magazine shape how people feel about their own bodies and understand their own sense of self in space? Thin-skinned Amanda Klein. This is a somewhat provocative slide. It's from a site called Project Harpoon, which is pretty disgusting, where people enjoying their Photoshop skills will take someone who is larger and artificially slim them down. So this would be quite easy, I guess, with AI, but this is back in Photoshop obsession days, and it just shows you what a fiction the images that we see all the time are, and here it's doing it in kind of a body-shaming way. What does that culture say, and that technology say about how we understand our bodies, how we look at other people, how we judge people, how we manipulate images, how we are seduced by images in the media that are artificial, even though they have a claim, a kind of photographic claim to reality. So you might want to make work, something about this. Next we have Wangechi Mutu, who is from Kenya. She moved to the United States. She's an amazing artist. And these first ones are, she's using found materials. So all kinds of materials are free in this project. You could be doing digital things, you could be doing video things, you could be doing installation art, whatever it is you want to do to make your point. So this has some found object aspect to it. She has found old medical diagrams, this old beautiful paper, and then she is collaging on top of that. She is taking ink and glitter and images of bodies and some kind of racy bits, maybe some pornographic or fashion magazine limbs going on to make these portrait faces, right? The faces then become a kind of composite image of the cultural things going around them and the stories that our culture tells. So next we have another one by her. You notice the peg leg of the title, I have a peg leg, and that can refer to war situations where there are a lot of landmines coming from the context of Kenya and war stories in that area of Africa. So on one hand, it's a statement about violence and standing up in the face of violence and continuing on. On the other hand, it can be kind of a psychological image of the same kind of thing about resilience and resisting. I note there on this slide a great interview between Robert Enright in the Canadian magazine, Border Crossings magazine, where he interviews her. This is another Toronto artist. This is Evan Penny. Again, you can really feel the digital aspect in this, but these are sculptures, right? They're so realistic. He worked in the movie industry for a long time, so he's like all of these skills of making skin that really feels like skin and using hair, fake hair, working with eyes. Like he's working with like epoxy, shiny epoxy on the eye and dropping in little red threads to make little veins. They're absolutely obsessively... just when you see them, you're not sure how they can be real. You feel like your eye's playing tricks on you. I want to show you another Evan Penny, and this is called After Holbein. Look at this stretched body, and this is a sculpture. There's Evan Penny on the right, and this long, elongated body, and it's actually the body of Christ based on a very famous painting. So here is the painting it's based on. Hans Holbein the Younger painted this, the body of the dead Christ in the tomb. It is a shocking image. I can't think of another one that shows such an unflinching statement of death with Christ. Like usually, okay, the Pieta, but he's still, somehow held, somehow cared for. This is a very bleak image in the tomb of emaciated, gaunt, tortured body of Jesus. So I show the entire length of it, as well as kind of a close-up of the portrait end of it. Now, if you study this painting, actually, there's a frame around it that some people argue softens the meaning or starts to point toward a redemption story. But the painting in itself is quite a shocker here. So Evan Penny has made a sculpture of this, but stretched it, but used a completely 3D realistic rendering of it. And it's actually not full depth. The figure's actually stretched longwise and shrunk this way, but with every detail is there. A stunning piece. How does technology shape how we understand the body? So we've got two technologies here in a sense. We have the painting source, and then this special effects graphic, actually latex, like skin with pores and hair. How does that change how we understand the story of Christ, the story of death, the story of having a body? We've been thinking about the body and about anatomy. Medical imaging actually provides amazing new ways to understand our body and gives us a way to visualize and understand what's going on within us. So here, for example, is an older piece. This is Robert Rauschenberg, amazing pop artist from the United States. This piece is called Booster, and in it he has included his X-ray of his own body. And it's in pieces there, right? The largest kind of X-ray he could get at the time, fitted together to make a full skeleton. And the next image actually shows him returning to the same theme-ish, using the same resources again and using that same X-ray in a new piece many decades later. So he's combining the X-ray with other kinds of notation, kind of metaphorical, like reflecting on his own life, his own body, his culture around him. But yeah, this opens up all kinds of ways for you to think about your own body. Maybe you have medical diagrams, medical graphs that are part of your life and being healthy. Maybe you are thinking about how just different kinds of treatments have affected you. And so reflecting on what the body means in our culture today, how do we treat the body with holistic full knowledge of spirit and body are connected, how do we honor the whole person, but also maybe how technologies are invasive or flatten our understanding of what it means to be a person. So there are all kinds of questions that arise from this kind of imagery, and I look forward to some of you thinking about that, if that is something that you connect with. Another technology about imaging and how we understand bodies is actually surveillance. We are being tracked. We are being photographed. There's facial recognition software. All of these things are going on in the world around us. And sometimes that is in relationship to power. So here is Matthew Carver, and he's using photography and turning it back at the police, actually, so kind of reverse surveillance. And this piece here is set in Berlin. It's called May 1st. May 1st is a date that is often an activist date for left-wing politics. May 1st on the Wiener Straße. So the left-wing activists are out parading and protesting and doing things, and the police are there to meet them, which isn't a very familiar sight in Canada. But the next image here is Matthew Carver's image from Toronto when the G20 was meeting in Toronto, and there was a massive police action and kettling protesters and arresting protesters, and it was very controversial. So those two paintings side by side form this kind of arc of a distorted view, like looking through like a body cam type view, or some kind of super wide angle perspective with this twist. And so the two both kind of form a continuous line of curving forms of bodies. One story I love about this series is that he was selected to be in the Cairo Biennial exhibition in Egypt, and so his paintings were on the wall. You can see them here paired together, and outside there was actually this Arab Spring protest where across a number of nations in the Middle East people were on the streets and demanding reforms to their government. So that's fascinating to me that this was happening in the gallery and something kind of similar was happening outside. So yeah, mediated bodies. Who is controlling a body and why? How does taking photographs of bodies shape politics and power? You might have different things that you want to say about that. Next, I have here a piece by Tim Hawkinson, and he is a Christian artist from California, and he has made this kind of robotic face where he has taken photograph of his face and cut it into different forms, and then had a robot machine mechanically moving all the different parts to make different expressions, many of which are actually physically impossible to make. It's just tipping and turning the different aspects of these photographs in order to make a emotionally expressive face that we relate to, even though many of the expressions are slightly grotesque and impossible to actually make. How does this relate to robotics and AI, and how do we trust what we're looking at? So there are many things about how technology might be changing human nature. So a profound piece from Tim Hawkinson. So as always, I present this kind of work to expand your thinking about what is possible in art making, what is possible with this project. So I'm not being prescriptive. It doesn't have to be like this work or that work, but I'm carving open a big space for you to follow your questions. So this becomes a very exciting project in the scope of this class. Mostly we are doing drawings on paper, and here's a chance to really extend and thematically reach out. Drawings on paper are still great, but there are all kinds of ways that you can conceptually approach a drawing on paper, but you can also use different media. So the challenge is make an artwork that addresses the impact of technology on our understanding of the human body. Explore the medium of your choice. This can certainly include drawing materials, charcoal, inks, etc., but may also make use of collage, photography, video, computers. There should be some relationship to drawing. Let's look at some student pieces. This one here, Alicia Wheatley, on paper with pencil crayon. She took an image of an infant, pixelated it into squares, and color-coded them, or just numbered them like a paint by number. So the image is made up of smaller pieces of paper, which then have a grid on each one. And she gave those grids to different people with color-coded numbers. So they would color it in their own way, and that would make the whole image come together. So You've got a digital image of a vulnerable person, this small child. You have the task of coloring being delegated out, so there's a community that's actually forming together to make this image. So that notion of it takes a community to raise a child, the intimacy of the child with the coldness of digital. So excellent piece, brings in a lot of good questions. This is Bethany Kenyon. She took photographs of herself kind of crunching down into a fetal position and rising back up. So there's kind of a death and resurrection motif here as she's going through different struggles in her life and forming this kind of mandala circle that ripples through time. This here, Jessica Johnson, is reflecting on her brother and the surgeries that he had in his gut. And so you can see here a stitched, embroidered image of intestines through the torn paper and the kind of radiating lines moving out from there. This is Camaria Quinn. She did an image of a face and then cut the paper in circles and then rotated the different aspects of the drawing in order to make this digital swirl kind of effect, but in a very analog way. Kind of the vortex of a face getting sucked into a different kind of perception in the digital world. A number of people have reflected on their family and their lineage, and so I've got two examples here. One from Shawnee Kitts. She made 4 pictures of family members and chopped them up and spliced them together so that you can kind of see family members joining together to create a family likeness. And somewhat similar idea on the right, more of a montage. This is from Ingrid, and she's using carbothellos. She layered 4 images together and drew them exquisitely using the carbothellos on toned paper. There's one face, there are 4 faces there, so you just kind of see 3 right away, and the other one is revealed completely overlapped in the other faces. And these are from Leah Rutenberg, and she made a sculpture. It's hard to see from this angle, but there's actually a fist that comes back and through her own head. So there's this hollow space in the head with the fist coming out. Very expressionistic, angsty, quite different than some of the cooler quality to some of the work that we're seeing. Very expressive. And when you zoom in close, you can see these collaged digital prints that she has of these portraits with these weeping eyes, which is kind of a motif that she worked with for a while. Here is Elena Schenk's collage, many bodies coming together to make a body. So yeah, what does that say about human nature, about what we have in common across races? How are we, instead of separating people out, how do we have a kind of unity as humanity? What brings us together? In the background there is nature, so it also asks a question about how does humanity fit in or be different from nature. This here looks like a black dress from a distance. As you move closer, she embroidered into it, which is kind of drawing, right? It's like the embroidery is a linear thing, so I really see this as a good connection with a drawing assignment. But she has a ultrasound image that she stitched into the dress. That is black thread on black dress, so you really only see it in the lighting when you look carefully. And a last one just to round this out, Malia's drawing of herself, self-portrait, sitting in this chair, realistically drawn, but she's taken transparent plastic and layered it over, and this reflects on her kind of living between worlds with her life in Canada and her life in the Dominican Republic where she's from, and that experience of feeling out of place and having different kinds of realities swirling around you and wondering where you fit. I'm excited to see what you come up with. We'll have a pitching day coming up, so that is a chance to share your early ideas. Come prepared for pitching day. So there is a handout about pitching day, about what to expect. This is a great chance to reflect on culture today, about your own experience of your own body, about how different media are affecting how we understand our own experience and the world around us. And it's a great chance to bring a faith lens to that. Much to celebrate if you think about medical imaging that is helping to make people well. Much to critique if you think about the flattening and objectification and the power held over people in different ways. So this is a great chance to make something amazing. I look forward to seeing your ideas at pitching day. Cheers.